All right, folks, welcome back. So today we are going to be continuing our conversation on solving one-step equations. This time we're going to be talking about how to solve one-step equations, or we call them simple equations, by using multiplication and division. Last time we talked about examples involving addition and subtraction. This time we're going to be talking about multiplication and division. So without further ado, here we go. Let's say we have this equation here, 7x is equal to 35. The first thing that I notice is that I don't see any operation. I don't see any symbol. I don't see an addition sign, subtraction sign, a multiplication, nor a division sign. That's because we have one term of 7x. And what this really means is 7 times x is equal to 35. So this is really going to be multiplication. So let me rewrite that problem for us. That way it's a little bit more clear. So since it's multiplication, we want that coefficient of x to end up being 1. Currently, the 7 is what we call the coefficient. This says we have 7 x's. We only want to have 1 x. So in order to get rid of those 7 x's and only have 1 x, we need to divide by our coefficient. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by 7. In doing so, 7 divided by 7 cancels out, and we're only left with 1x. 35 divided by 7 is 5. And just like any other equation, we need to check our work. So let's do that now. So we start out with our OG. 7x is equal to 35. We're going to substitute in the value of our x here. And I'm going to use parentheses because we're multiplying. Is equal to 35. Well, what is 7 times 5? Well, 7 times 5 is 35. So we simplified the left-hand side. The right-hand side, oops, sorry about that, is already simplified. So 35 is equal to 35, meaning that our answer of x being 5 is correct. Nice. Nice one, folks. What about this problem? I want you to try out this problem on your own. So pause the video and then resume when you have finished this problem. All right, if you can hear my voice, that means that you have attempted this problem and you are here to listen to our answer to verify that what we did was correct. So we have negative 0.8 n is equal to 4. Remember, we want that coefficient of n to be 1. Right now, it's negative 0.8. So just like before, we're going to divide by that coefficient on both sides. Now, when we divide, we have to bring that negative sign because we want that coefficient to end up being 1. Let's look at this part right here first. We have a negative in the numerator and a negative in the denominator. A negative divided by a negative turns out to be a positive, which is good. And now 0.8 divided by 0.8, that will also cancel out. So we're just going to be left with positive n. And then we have 4 divided by negative 0.8. If you use your calculator for that, you should get a negative 5. So you get negative 5. Now we have a positive 4 divided by a negative 0.8. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. So our answer is going to be n is equal to negative 5. But we need to check it first. So let's go back and let's check. Because sometimes we think our answer is right, but it ends up being the wrong one. And by doing this check, you might think this is wasted time. Believe me, it's not. If you do the check properly, you're going to be able to verify that your answer is correct. Or if it's wrong, you still now have time to go back and try to get that correct answer. So I have negative 0.8 n is equal to 4. We're going to substitute our value of n that we just found, which is negative 5. And let's simplify it. Negative 0.8 times 5, or times negative 5, sorry. So we have negative times a negative is a positive, so we know our answer is going to be positive, which is good. 0.8 times 5 is going to be 4. And look at that, 4 is equal to 4, which means that our answer is indeed correct. Nice one. Nice one. Let's try out this problem. We have W divided by 8, but there's a negative sign in front of it. So it's negative W divided by 8 is equal to 6. Notice how this is a fraction. Since it's a fraction, that means we have division. We are starting out with division. So we need to do the inverse operation, which is multiplication. So we're going to be multiplying both sides by some number. When we have a fraction, we want to multiply by our denominator. We want to multiply by our denominator, and our denominator is 8. But remember, we have this negative sign right here. So that means we have to multiply by negative 8 because we want that W to stay positive. So we're going to multiply by negative 8. This negative sign times a negative, those cancel out, and now we're positive. 8 divided by 8 is 1. That's also going to cancel out. So we have W is equal to positive 6 times negative 8. Positive times a negative is a negative. 6 times 8 is going to give us 48. And now we have to do one more thing, and as you guessed it, we need to check. We need to check our work. So let's go back to our original problem. Negative W over 8 is equal to 6. I'm going to go horizontally here because I don't have the room. We're going to substitute in our value of negative 48 for W, and it might look a little bit confusing, but that's okay. Well, we have the opposite of this fraction. We have a double negative, which guess what, folks? Boop, boop. Those cancel out. Beautiful. So now we have 48 over 8 is equal to 6. Well, what's 48 divided by 8? That's 6. So 6 is equal to 6, which means that we have a true statement. All right, folks, we are almost done. We have one more problem that I want to run through with you. Let's talk about this problem here. So we have 3 over 2 is equal to 9 over 10k. Okay? Okay. So this is a little bit different. When we had something that looked like this, we would divide by 9 on both sides, right? That's what we would do for that kind of problem. But we're going to be using that same idea here. We're going to have to divide by that coefficient. So we're going to divide by 9 over 10. But think back to when we divide fractions. What really happens? We don't divide, we multiply. And we use what's called the reciprocal. So we multiply by the reciprocal, that fraction that is flipped. Well, we can simplify this. 9 cancels out with 9. 10 cancels out with 10. So we're just left with k. Let's go over to the left-hand side. 10 and 2 can simplify to 5 and 1. 3 and 9 simplify to 1 and 3. When we multiply our fractions, we now have 5 over 3 times 1 over 1, which really ends up being 5 over 3 is equal to k. Let me rewrite that for us. All right, folks, great job. Send me an email if you have any questions, but I'm super duper proud of you.